Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Hong Kong and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a good few times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, a good few different styles, and if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they are just very solid all round. They're one of these breweries who pretty much everything they try tends to turn out very, very well. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a little bit special because it is the first of its kind in the Hong Kong beer scene. I have actually tasted this one at the release date, but this is going to be my own kind of proper sit-down review of this beer. So I'm very much looking forward to trying it again and trying it with a fully clean palate and things like this. I think it should be really interesting from that perspective. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then we are going to head to Kwai, which is just to the northwest of Kowloon here in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Yardley Brothers Brewery. So this particular beer is called Köelschip. It comes in at 6% ABV, and as you might be able to tell from the name, this one is a Köelschip fermented and wooden barrel fermented wild ale. So yeah, the very first Köelschip beer produced in Hong Kong, and like I said, I know this is pretty damn good actually, so really very curious to see what this one is going to be like with a clean palate. So yeah, let's crack on with this one and see what it's going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Yardley Brothers Brewery before, and you will definitely see more added to that list in the fairly near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist along with a number of other things, and you can check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well. So yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Yardley Brothers Brewery once again. So the Yardley Brothers Brewery was founded on Lamma Island by Luke and Duncan Yardley. So the brothers are half Scottish, half English, and Luke previously worked as a parts wholesaler and ended up staying in Hong Kong after meeting a girl, and then he married a different girl later on, and that is of course Ting Ting, who you can often find around the different Yardley's venues. But he and Duncan had homebrewed back at home, and then they took it up again when Duncan joined Luke in Hong Kong back in 2014. And the main reason they started homebrewing was because they couldn't get the kinds of beer that they wanted to drink themselves. So their first brewery was on Lamma Island, which I do recommend that you visit if you find yourself here in Hong Kong. Lovely place. But in December of 2016, they opened up a production brewery on the 5th floor of an industrial building where the rent was cheaper. And the main reason they went up there was because, just because of how expensive real estate is in Hong Kong. Rent here is absolutely horrendous. But apparently when they moved in, the tanks wouldn't fit in the elevator, so 8 people had to basically push and lift them up the stairs, and they stayed in this brewery for a number of years. And the original one is in the Kwai Chung area, in the Untappd industrial centre just to the northwest of Kowloon. These days they've got the beer shack out on Lamma Island, which is not the original beer shack, I should point out. They have moved locations, and they've also got their tap room on Peel Street in Central, which I do recommend you visit. I'm a fairly regular visitor in there, so you might find me in there if you visit Hong Kong. But in the last few years they've been developing their barrel program, which they started back in 2018, and they've moved into a new and larger brewery still in the Kwai Chung area to the northwest of Kowloon, and they just had their kind of grand opening of that at the end of January in 2024, but they have been working out of that brewery for a good few months now, since about mid 2023. But as of March 2024, when we're filming this review for you, these guys have produced about 160 different beers according to Untappd, and like I said to you, these guys are pretty damn solid. I mean, whatever they try, it tends to turn out very, very well. My personal favourite kind of go-to from this brewery would be the Hong Kong Bastard. That's a really, really nice one, actually. A nice big old school double West Coast IPA. So yeah, quite often have one or two of those when I go up to Yardley's tap room in Central. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about these guys for the moment. If you want to learn more about them, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and have a wee look at the beer itself. So I'll just have a wee look at the artwork quickly before we open it up. There you can see it's quite nicely presented, I have to say, quite different from what we've seen from Yardley's before. But yeah, they do change their artwork up quite a little bit. I don't know who designs the labels for these guys, does it say? No, but it just says on the back, yeah, crafted in Hong Kong. There you can see a little bit of the detail of the beer there. So I'll just read that out to you. It says, Köelschip spontaneous sour on a cold winter night in January of 2021 with a temperature of 7 degrees Celsius. A group of enthusiasts cast out beneath bougainvillea and eucalyptus tree on Lama Island, capturing the essence of the ecosystem by harnessing the wild yeast and bacteria present in the flora and fauna that night to create a unique one-off beer, the first spontaneous Köelschip of Hong Kong. Some of the other details I got from the Untappd page about this beer is that it was aged for 3 years in new oak barrels, and then it was blended with an American Brett Saison that had been aged in French oak. So yeah, this is quite an interesting one, this, and they do have another beer that's been aged for 3 years as well, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, this is a very, very kind of unusual and unique and sort of benchmark beer when it comes to the Hong Kong beer scene. Hong Kong's very, very first Köelschip spontaneous sour. So not often you get to do something like this on the channel, in fact. The bottle itself is a 375 milliliter one. I think if you buy this beer, it's somewhere in the region of like, I think it's about 110 Hong Kong dollars. So that translates to about £11 sterling, and maybe about 12, 13 euros, about the same in dollars, US probably. So yeah, a little bit more expensive, but you know, Hong Kong is just a wee bit more expensive for beer. So let's get this guy out into the glass and see how we get on. Plain bottle cap, incidentally, forgot to show you that. Let's get it out and see how we go. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening, and let's pour this guy. There you are. A little bit of sediment left at the bottom of the bottle there, but nothing unusual about that when you consider what style of beer this one is, a proper wild ale. So yeah, anyway, you can see the head on this one is about half a finger. If we shine the light through it, I would say that it's a nice kind of sort of fawn colour, but there's some medium-sized bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid. The head gets a little bit foamier the further up that you go, and then you've got some really nice kind of just foamy thin layers, a kind of foamy thin layer just sitting there. But yeah, the thicker foamy ring is surviving around the edge of the glass there. But yeah, it's got a lovely, very kind of rich amber colour out of this one. So yeah, lovely, very rich amber colour coming out of the beer. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. And you know, when it comes to kind of golden sours like this, which I think we can describe this one as being, the barrel will play a little bit of a role. So probably the blend from the French oak, the Saison, and this one I'm guessing it's probably a cognac barrel or something like that, will be giving this beer an amber. The colour of this one is quite akin to like a West Coast double IPA, something like that. It's got a lovely kind of blood orange type colour to it, and just a little bit of that natural kind of unfiltered haziness. But yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation. I think it looks beautiful, and it looks pretty much as I remember it. We got this one just in little tasting glasses at the brewery, which was nice. So yeah, nothing unusual about the appearance, to be honest with you. Let's have a wee look at the nose and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Oh yeah, this is lovely. It's got a really nice balance to it between, you know, the woodiness, the tannins, the acidity, the fruit, all of these kind of things. It's giving you everything that you would want from this type of beer. You know, I can't knock it. I'm just wondering if I should turn off this light so it looks a little bit better in the camera. I think, yeah, that does look a wee bit better, eh? So yeah, the way everything goes together in this beer is really, really quite special, very unique. So, it smells so good, it really does. So the backbone of this beer, obviously, it's the different kinds of oak. You can smell that lovely, big, smooth, kind of French oak in there. I'm guessing it'll be North American oak or something that's been in the new barrel. Canadian oak maybe. But yeah, you can smell that lovely kind of smooth American oak in there, the slightly drier European oak as well. And remember, those are two different kinds of trees. They are actually different species of trees, so they're distinctly different. So yeah, you get a wee bit of that because you can smell, I do get a little touch of like vanilla out of this one, which is what makes me think American oak. But there is that wee bit of dryness too, as I say. The backbone of the beer is absolutely, you've got like a little bit of a kind of brown, yeah, maybe like a little mix of a white bready and brown bready bread crust in there. Absolutely. Soft white bready character. Yeah, soft white bready character. Lovely kind of, how do you say? Yeah, lovely white bready character. For me, some really little bits of kind of fluffy, sweet brown and white bread in there. Little bits of cracker as well, like Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing. But then on top of that, you're getting wee elements of, you know, you're getting a little hint of like biscuit, McVitie's digestive biscuit. You're getting some of that more kind of Werther's original butter candy butterscotch. But of course, it's the spontaneous yeast, it's the kind of tannins and stuff like that. You get a little bit of that leathery tannin note out of this one. And you get the kind of acidity just coming out of this one, that kind of vinous character. It smells absolutely lovely. The sharpness you get out of this one is really interesting. But, you know, Yardley Brothers, I've tried a few of the sour beers from Yardley's, and you know, they know what they're doing with these things, I have to say. They do put some adjuncts in some of these beers, like the Flanders Red, they've got a mulberry version, but personally I prefer the raw one. I think Yardley Brothers are very, very good when it comes to straight up, like raw barrels, if you like. So yeah, this one comes off as being, yeah, very raw and very kind of straightforward. Yeah, like I say, it gives you everything you would want from the style. With this beer having been aged for so long, the hoppy character has obviously dropped out of it quite a wee bit, and wild ales are not known for being overly hoppy, and this is one of the great arguments between modern sour beer brewers. You know, if you add hops into the beer, the bitterness kind of distracts you away from the sourness, and likewise if you're making more modern fruit sours where you add the fruit is going to suppress the green component of the hops anyway, so what's the point? It's a kind of circular argument in a way. But obviously in Belgium they took the approach of using old hops where the potency of the bitterness has kind of gone down a wee bit, and I think that's probably been the same approach with this one, just going by the aroma, because you can certainly get if you smell the thing, you can smell the Saison influence in here as well. So you can smell there's a little bit of earthiness, smooth earthiness as well, and slightly dry, which makes me think, you know, Czech Jatets or Hallertau Tet Nang type thing. So there's a little bit of that kind of smooth and slightly dry earthiness coming out of the beer. Pardon me. You've also you can pick up a little bit of floralness, and there's that kind of wet, grassy character that comes out of it. As well. I really do like how that just kind of all pieces together. The hoppy character just adds a little bit more depth to the beer as well. On the fruity side of things then, you know, they say it's apricot, and I agree with that. You know, it has got quite a little bit of that apricot, you know, in this one. I would also say there's like oily pear, there's a little bit of sultana, you know, dry white green grapes. So I would absolutely say a good little bit of sultana type character coming out of this beer. And yeah, the way that goes together is pretty damn awesome. Yeah, I really do like how this one just kind of goes about its business. It's absolutely lovely. Yeah, pears, sultanas, maybe a little touch of like fresh green apple, something like that. Big oily apricots. Date maybe is another one. Yeah, aroma wise, this is just a really, really interesting beer. It doesn't do anything out of the ordinary, to be honest with you, if you're familiar with these wild ale beers, but it's just beautiful. It just is really, really nice. Leans toward the more leathery, acidic end of the spectrum based on beers I've had in this category before. So big thumbs up to Yardley Brothers for the aroma. Let's go into it and have a taste of it. So like I said, this is the Köelschip, a 6% spontaneous sour from the wonderful Yardley Brothers Brewery in Kwai, Chung, or is it Kuntong? I'm forgetting, I'm mixing up my areas. Just to the northwest of Kowloon here in Hong Kong. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, on a clean palate, it really has a hell of an impact to it. You get these lovely, just really sharp vinous, tanniny notes that come and just give you a good punch in the beginning, and I really do like that about this one. It really goes together in a very interesting way. Yeah, lovely stuff from Yardley's once again. But just the way this beer mellows out, and I've often said this on the channel, for me a good wild ale is one that gives you a lovely transition from just being a bit kind of sharp and in the beginning to having that lovely smoothness at the end. And you know, you have to let these beers open a little bit, you have to let them breathe. And yeah, this one is just lovely. It's really, really good. And I know my teacher friends that I've made out here, they're really into their beer as well, and they very much enjoyed this one. So yeah, beautiful stuff. You'll see some of them in the in some videos later on the channel. Yeah, lovely stuff. Really is good, this. The more that you drink of it, the more it kind of smoothens out. You get more of the leatheriness, more of the sweetness. The sourness just kind of dials back a little bit as your palate adjusts to it. You get the lovely fruitiness and just the wee touch of hoppy character, but lovely, oily, smooth sour beer, this one. Just beautiful, beautiful beer, actually. Really, really good stuff. Yeah. Let's try and break this one down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. We'll start on the middle third of the palate, as we always do. So, for me, the backbone of this beer, it's on that middle third of your palate, you've got that lovely, smooth, oaky character in there. does come across like a fodder. Does come across like one of these kind of, with the smoothness you get from some of the Belgian classics, you know, the Duchesse de Bourgogne and things like this. It has definitely got that sort of fodder-aged type oaky smoothness in there. So that's the backbone of your beer. Maybe the further toward the edges of the palate that you go, you get a little bit more dryness out of the oak, but then the further forward you go on that middle third of your palate, you're getting a little bit more of the kind of vanilla type thing that you might expect from some of these beers. So yeah, for me, that woodiness is lovely. You have this on top of the kind of woody layer, if you like, you can feel there is maybe just a very slight cognac-y note to this one, but very, very minimal. You get the fruitiness out of the cognac, and I think that's probably coming from the saison that's the saison blend that's kind of in this one. So yeah, maybe that's where it is, because it's French oak aged. So maybe that, yeah, I think that would be logical as to where that would come from. But yeah, above the kind of woody layer and the lovely smooth wooden layer, you get a little bit of breadiness out of this one, and there is a wee bit of that kind of bread crusty type flavour there, but it certainly doesn't have the kind of dryness that you'd normally expect of a bread crusty flavour that I often mention in these videos. But yeah. For me, just the way it all pieces together is awesome. Like it's just lovely. And so I mean, above the neck, yeah, it's a very layered beer, this one. You've got the smooth woodiness in there. You can feel that little bit of kind of oily acidity sitting on top of the wood. You've got the bread crusty character that I've just mentioned. Then you've got like a really dense and sweet bready character coming out of the beer too. So the sort of dense, sweet bready character that's in here is really interesting, because it feels like you've got a sweeter brown bread underneath and a bit of a sweeter white bread on top. It does feel layered to a degree. But then above that, you start to get the kind of brown sugary notes out of the beer. So it feels like you've got this really leathery kind of character to the brown sugar. So you've got that lovely kind of leathery brown sugar sort of thing going on. And then you have, leathery brown sugars. They're not too dry, they are kind of like sweet and kind of butterscotchy, and yeah, as you move toward the centre of that middle third of your palate, yeah, you get the more Werther's Original butterscotchy, butter candy type things coming out of this beer. So yeah, the way all of that pieces together is really nice as well. Sorry about the edit there, guys. The camera just decided it was going to die, didn't give me any warning or anything. But yeah, we're back up and running. And yeah, I was just getting on to the point of talking about the kind of brown sugary layer in this one. So above the kind of dense white bready and brown sugary brown bready layer, you start to get that lovely kind of slightly leathery, smooth brown sugary character there. So in the dead centre of your palate, you've got a wee bit of that kind of more Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of note coming out of the beer. But as you move out toward the edges of that middle third of your tongue, you get a wee bit more kind of sort of biscuity, a very slight biscuity character out of this one. But I would stress that the kind of leathery nature of this beer really pushes its way out, and even the brown sugars are almost just like really, really smooth and really leathery, and you do get a little bit of that lingering dryness into the aftertaste with this beer too. But that's all part of the vibe. It's actually quite an oily leaning wild ale, this one, which I do particularly like, I have to say. So it gets a big thumbs up from me, this one. And you do get just a slight touch of like pecan or almond or something out of this beer too, the further into the aftertaste that you go. But I think at that, we've covered the middle third of the palate, to be honest with you. And and it's just lovely. Cannot compliment this beer enough. So yeah, let's go to the back third of the palate then. Have a wee look there. So I often say the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. So if you go a little bit further back then, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of the bready build-up in there. So it feels like a slightly fluffier, more airy bread. And again, it's a kind of blend between like white bread and brown bread. It's almost got a little bit of a kind of buttery character to it as well. But you can feel that on the back third of the palate, you can feel on the back third of the palate there, the woody flavours are most definitely a little bit drier. So you feel that lovely kind of smooth, drier, oaky character in there. You get a wee bit more of the bread crust, which again is a wee bit drier. You can feel that the brown bready layer, the kind of sweet brown bready layer there, is just a little bit lighter and more airy. Then above that you've got the white bready layer, which again is a little bit lighter and more airy. They do still retain that kind of slight sweetness that they do, the kind of butter bready kind of thing. And then you can feel above that some of the brown sugary notes, the drier aspects of the brown sugary side of this beer, just kind of creep over the top of that, and you've got a wee touch of like a kind of dry Werther's Original butter candy sort of thing there. But sitting above all of that, you have the yeasty side of this beer. And obviously when it's a wild ale, this is the most interesting point. So the yeasty side of this beer is really interesting. So you can feel it has this really kind of dense, sweet, brown bready core. As you move out from that, you get a wee bit more of a kind of almost rusticy, kind of like grainy white bready character, and then it's got a little bit of that crust, like that kind of bread crusty note, just kind of sitting there around it, and that is really, really nice in this one too. And of course all of that sits on top of the kind of maltier side on the back third of your palate, and definitely you can feel the flavour on that back third of the palate is definitely taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together, and the way that everything kind of just pieces together in this one is absolutely lovely. Really, really love that about this particular beer. It's awesome. So yeah, at this point we've covered the malty and the yeasty side of the beer. Let's go on to the kind of hoppy side of things and the fruity side of the beer to round off the tasting. So back corners of your palate, and I will say the edges of your palate in this beer are very, very smooth and kind of wet but slightly oily at the same time. It's almost like the feel you get from the kind of humid air that we have in Hong Kong. It's kind of like that. But yeah, in the back corners of your palate you can feel the remnants of like a very, very smooth earthiness, and as you move a little bit further forward, that earthiness just almost kind of dries out a wee bit. But as you progress forward toward the kind of front corners of your palate, you get a little bit more kind of floral character just pushing its way out there, and it does have a wee bit of floral bite as you reach the front corners of the tongue. Round the front curve of the tongue though, you start to get more and more grassiness out of the beer. So yeah, the grassiness that you get out of this beer is like fresh or wet, freshly cut grass. That's really what you get out of this one around the front curve of the tongue. And as I say, the green component in this beer, it has a wee bit of zestiness to it, but the mouthfeel of this one, this has got to be one of the kind of wettest wild ales that I can think of that I've had. It really is just so good, this one. So good. Yeah, I think it'd be a shame if Luke doesn't do a little bit more with this one and play around with it a wee bit, but I think it is a pretty awesome example, and for this to be the very first one in Hong Kong is pretty damn special. But yeah, I think we've covered the kind of green component in this one. As I said though, a lot of the what you would call the green component in this beer will have dropped out over the years that it's been sitting there and doing its barrel aging activity. But yeah, still beautiful. Let's focus on the front third of the palate then, and the fruity side of the beer. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you can feel the bready build up in this beer, and again it's that sort of brown bready character on the base, white bready character on top, and it's got a wee bit of that buttery sort of thing. And you can feel the wood as you reach the kind of front tip of your tongue is very smooth and lovely, smooth and okay, and very, very light. And the way that all of that pieces together is just absolutely lovely. So yeah, gets a big, big thumbs up from me in that regard. So yeah, the fruity side of the beer that sits on top of that, the smooth woody note, the wee bit of bread crust and a wee bit of the dense bread, you can feel that lovely oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. But you also have to talk about the impact flavour in this one, since it's a sour beer, because when you take the beer in, you get that little bit of vinous, that kind of white wine vinous-y sharpness just comes in behind the tip of your tongue. You call that, the kind of the slight attack that the beer has, which is really, really nice. So yeah, the way that everything pieces together from that is nice too. So at the back of that front third of your palate, you do have a little bit of that kind of sharp, citricy, vinous sort of thing. But as you move further forward, yeah, you get that dry apricot-y character out of it. Further back, there's definitely that kind of more oily sultana type note coming out of the beer, the dry white, green, grapey notes. So that's absolutely in there. Then, as you push further forward, you get the drier apricot, maybe a very slight datey note to this one. That's a push though. And then, as you move into the front half of that front third of your tongue, it's all about like this really fresh, sharp, green apple-y type character. And yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really, really nice. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together is great. Yeah, definitely sultanas, dry apricot, yeah, slight datey sort of thing. Pear, yeah, pear is definitely in there. Then you've got that sharper fresh green apple and the sort of vinous, white winey character just coming in behind the front tip of the tongue as well. Beautiful, beautiful beer, this one. Can't compliment it enough. Just great, great stuff. So yeah, huge thumbs up to massive, massive thumbs up to Yardley Brothers for this. It's an awesome beer, this, and I'm sure the really, really massive nerdy kind of wild ale fans would enjoy this one, definitely. Yeah, let's round off this review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. And as I said, it's quite unique, I think, this beer, in terms of its mouthfeel. So I would describe this beer as being at the sort of bottom end of full-bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth in this one. It's got a wet, almost humid, kind of sticky type mouthfeel to it, which I think suits it very, very well, and it helps bring out some of the sweeter aspects of the flavour and the smoothness of the wood, I would say. So yeah, for me, it's quite an oily, smooth, and almost like humid type sour beer. Yeah. So yeah, I really do like how this goes together. In terms of IBU count in this one, you're probably talking 2, 3, 4, 5 IBUs, something absolutely minimal like that. You have got a bit of dryness to it in the aftertaste, but it's very smooth and slightly sweet dryness, so there's not really much danger of it being conflated with bitterness, as you can get in some beers. But yeah, as I say, the malty, yeasty thing in this beer is quite layered. You've got the lovely kind of dry, smooth and sweetening wood. You've got the lovely smooth and sweetening kind of buttery bread, if you like, in this beer. Then the brown sugars, the oily, slightly leathery and dry brown sugars on top, they get sweeter into the aftertaste. You've got that sour impact in there. And as I say, this beer mellows out absolutely beautifully. Can't knock it in that regard at all. And then yeah, you've got the lovely big sort of juicy, you've got a lovely kind of juicy, wet, dry, fruity character coming out of this one as well. Quite citrusy, I have to say. So yeah, the way everything just kind of pieces together in this beer is absolutely beautiful, and I can't compliment Yardley Brothers Brewing enough for this. This is just awesome. You need to try this if you get the chance. So hopefully they do have another batch in the mix somewhere, and they'll either that or something similar and slightly different that we'll see at some stage going forward. But I do know that they like their barrel aged beer, so I don't think there's any danger of there being none of those, no more of those going forward. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. But this has been awesome. This is the Köelschip, Hong Kong's first spontaneous fermented Köelschip wild ale from the wonderful Yardley Brothers Brewing in Kowloon here in Hong Kong. Beautiful, beautiful beer, this one. Try it if you get the chance. Probably the best beer, one of the best 2 beers that I've had so far from Yardley Brothers, and you'll see the other one reviewed a little bit later on, so keep your eyes peeled for that. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Yardley Brothers Brewing as well, and I will catch you guys again shortly with another one. But yeah, Köelschip, 6%, Hong Kong's first Köelschip wild ale, and it's been great. So till the next time, Slanjit Skull, cheers, check out my social media, check out Yardley Brothers social media, and I'll catch you guys later. Ciao just now.